So here's one of those free responses that pulls from multiple different units. It's the Macro 2012 question 1 free response. It starts off by telling you there's a country called Rankinland and it's currently in a recession. Part A asks you to draw the production possibilities curve, assuming this country only produces clothing and food. So up here I'm going to put food, down here I'm going to put clothing. Combination A has to be inside the production possibilities curve because remember, this country has a recession. Wow, that was pretty easy. Now, BI says that the central bank of this country decides to use expansionary monetary policy and they use open market operations. So this means that the central bank must be buying bonds. Now remember, there's 3 things a central bank can do to have expansionary monetary policy. They could decrease the reserve ratio, they could decrease the discount rate, or they could buy bonds. But since this question told you they're using open market operations, buying bonds is the only answer that works. Now before I go any further, let's make sure I show you where the points are so you understand how you're doing along the way. This whole question is out of 12 points. Part A was worth 2 points. 1 point for saying food, clothing, and having the production possibilities curve. Another point for having a point A inside that curve. BI was worth 1 point. You had to say buy bonds. In B2, it's asking you to draw the money market graph and showing what does buying bonds look like on that graph. Now make sure you label it correctly. The money market has the nominal interest rate in the Y and the quantity of money on the X. There's the downward sloping demand for money, and there's a vertical supply of money. When the central bank uses expansionary monetary policy and buys bonds, that's going to increase the money supply. That will decrease the nominal interest rate. 1 point for the correct labeling, 1 point for showing the shift rightward in the money supply. How you doing so far? So B3 said that there's no change in price level. What's going to happen to the real interest rate? Well, we know from earlier in the question that the nominal rate is going to go down. And now in B3 it says price level is going to stay the same. And so the real interest rate is going to also fall. This is an explain question, so to get the second point, you got to explain how you got that answer. So what I wrote is because real equals nominal plus expected inflation, so if the nominal decreases and inflation stays the same, then the real interest rate is going to go down. So B3 was worth another 2 points. In B4 it said if the real interest rate falls, like you said in B3, what's going to happen to the real GDP? Well, the real GDP is going to increase. And again, this is an explain question, so to get the point, you got to explain how you got your answer. The answer is because a decrease in the real interest rate will increase investment and will increase aggregate demand. Remember, that's expansionary monetary policy. B4 was worth 1 more point. In CI, it told you this country has a current account deficit. Then it said if there's an increase in the real GDP, what is that going to do to the deficit? Is it going to make it bigger or is it going to make it smaller? The answer is it's going to increase the deficit. The current account deficit will increase because an increase in GDP will increase incomes, that'll increase imports, which will decrease net exports. Wait, how'd you know that? If the country's real GDP increases, that means people are going to be richer and the economy's going to improve. When that happens, they're going to buy more things, including things from other countries, more imports. Now when our country buys more imports, that's going to decrease our net exports, which is part of the current account, right? That's part of the balance of trade. So if net exports go down, this country's going to have a larger current account deficit. Now this part was also worth 2 points. Almost done. The last part of C asks about the value of the currency. It said if the GDP increases, what happens to the currency it called the bearer? Well, the value of the currency will decrease or depreciate. When people in this country increase the amount of imports because the GDP increased, they're going to supply more of their currency, the bearer. So if this country increases its imports, that means it has to supply more of its currency to the foreign exchange market to get other currency and to buy other country's stuff. So their currency, the bearer, will depreciate. Hey, a quick correction. This graph down here was only worth 2 points, not 3 points. So it was 1 point for labeling it correctly and 1 point for the shift. So now add up all the points. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Out of 12, see how you did? Till next time.